Hi everybody, Kat here. Welcome to my channel. Hope you're having a good day. First, I just want to say that everything I'm going to say here right now is my thoughts and opinions based on what I've learned, what I kind of know, how I think, and strictly my opinion. Do your own research. And we're going to tackle a tough topic today. The recent conflict and escalation between Hamas and Israel. Even the timing of it is quite interesting. October 6th, 2023, exactly 50 years to the day of the Yom Kippur War that began October 6, 1973. The reason it's interesting is that in the Jewish faith, God's timing kind of thing works in 50-year cycles called jubilees. And interestingly enough, the Jubilee of the Yom Kippur War brings on another big conflict. So just that in itself is something interesting, and if you're so inclined, worth looking at. Now, we have heard from world leaders that they stand with Israel. Of course, now what does that mean? What does it mean? How dedicated are they to the Jewish homeland and the sanctity and sovereignty of as Israel as a nation? How much of it is just talk? You know, you got to look at that as well. And there's always been, since the beginning of Israel's inception as a nation, there has been conflict between the Israelis and the Arabs in the area. Now, Israel was made a nation state in May of 1948 after the Second World War. They were given a homeland, and the Jewish state was sort of carved up and defined between the bankers and other governmental factions that basically put this plan into motion. And, you know, these countries who say they stand with Israel take for example, Canada, Britain, the United States, Germany, Italy. You know, these are all predominantly, at least at one time, Judeo-Christian nations. One thing that the Jews and the Christians have in common is the Holy Bible, and really the Old Testament is almost like a deed document as far as God was concerned. What constituted the real estate of the Israel state of Israel, the ownership of the land, what they were carved up to was much smaller. The area that, and this is one reason that there's always been conflict, because the Jews, according to the Bible, believe that they really have the right to exercise their control over a much larger area than formal Israel's borders reflect at the minute. That is why they're building settlements in these kind of, and people who are pro-Palestinian are accusing Israelis of encroaching on their territory. I mean, from the beginning of time, it was like they planned it, which is kind of amusing because we know nothing ever happens by accident. It's like they planned it from the beginning of time. Even the directors of the development of the nation state of Israel knew from the beginning that there was going to be conflict. Now, we're looking at this and we're thinking bankers, people like the United Nations, people like nowadays the World Economic Forum and the World Bank and the World Health Organization. All these control groups are, sovereign governments of every country, heads of government, the King of England, all these leaders and elites and lawmakers and directors of the way things are going to be. They have a vested interest in continuous conflict, and they exercise it a lot. There's a quote, when all else fails, take us to war. I'm a little cynical. I mean, when you look at at what actually happened, and rather prophetic that it was, it was like the timing. The elites, they love their numbers, they love their dates, commemorating whatever, certain things. It's all kind of very occult and satanic, but they're really into this kind of thing. And here you go 50 years later to the day, a significant date for the Jews. And this terrible, unprovoked, supposedly attack happened. And somehow, even with the Iron Shield, one of the best defense programs in the world, the Israelis really know. I mean, their intelligence is better than none in the world. And somehow, the Palestinians were able to fly drones with, I guess, bombs on them, however they did it, into Israeli airspace, and the Israelis were just like, nothing to see here. They were shocked and surprised. You got to kind of wonder about that. But then you have to also say, well, would a sovereign country's leader be so evil to allow the death of his civilians, innocent civilians, for any reason at all? You would think, I mean, most of us are normal. No. But haven't we time and time again, whether you're reading ancient history or just recalling recent events, haven't leaders always conducted war for political gain? That's the only reason they do it. Money and political gain. That's it. Would Netanyahu be that cold? Well, you gotta look at how this benefits him. Right now, he's a little on the ropes. There's corruption in his government, as there is with every government in the world, bar none, full of corruption. We know this. There's, and with most countries, you have to make a distinction between the leadership and the people. I don't think every Jew living in Israel is corrupt. It's the leadership, same as here in Canada. I mean, It happens all over. It happens everywhere. There's corruption in the British government. Some would say there's corruption in the royal family. Just think of the donations, bags of, millions of dollars of money in grocery bags for maybe a visa, maybe an honor, maybe a medal, maybe, citizenship. It's happened. In the royal family, they're all corrupt. If they are part of the elite, they are corrupt to some degree. You'll always find corruption. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks, honestly, that you can kind of suss out what's really going on. Well, same as this conflict. You got to look at, with any conflict, who benefits. Netanyahu, by miles, man. Right now he's on the ropes. Corruption, as I said, he is not that popular anymore. People don't like his policies. Would he win the next election? It's iffy right now. But here you go. Damn it if we don't have an attack, and he's got to stand up and be the strongman world leader that's going to avenge the deaths of the innocent Israelis, and this time he's really going to go after Hamas. So that he's got something now, a common purpose for the world to rally around. So for the minute, they're going to forget all the corruption, and they're going to be rallied in spirit for the protection of Israel and the avenging of innocent blood. And isn't that a worthy thing? He's going to gain political capital by this. Netanyahu wins. So, I mean, all you got to think about is the level of corruption. Would he actually do this? And like I said, we've seen time and time again of political leaders making bank with conflict. I mean, it's built into the pie. You look at the way the World Economic Forum manages and plans, and who they manage, and their programs, and what they're funding. When you fund both sides of a conflict, you come out ahead every time, man. You do. And one of the elite's biggest tools that they use is divide and conquer. All of this whole inclusivity claptrap that we hear and is shoved down our throats. So you got to be inclusive of, the alphabet people, the trans people, the gay people, the immigrants, the whatever, what they've done. It's real Orwellian doublespeak. They're saying inclusion, everybody's the same, everybody treated equally. But while they're doing that, they're identifying little tiny groups of people. Okay, you're in the trans community. You're in the immigrant community. You're in the Black female community. You're in the disabled community. You're in the Muslim community. And each one of those distinct communities, of course, are socially pushed to demand special rights that they believe means inclusion to them. Now, this is where conflict happens. And I mean, we're seeing it in Canada right now. Millions of parents are out in the street every day across the country for over 2 weeks now, fighting for our children. They are opposing the gender-based curriculum, that's in the schools now. The teaching 5 years old about transsexuals and this and that and all of these things that the kids don't need to learn. And it really isn't shouldn't be the school board's mandate to do so. We should allow a certain amount of autonomy left to the parents. And, you know, the government in Canada is just, it's taking control. But the point is the people are fighting back. But so you've also got, while they are out protesting, you have counter-protests that have been fired up by the trans community saying, oh, you're just haters, you're just transphobic, you know. So they've got two distinct groups fighting against each other. This is what Trudeau has done. So that instead of looking and seeing what they've both got in common, you know, what the real issues are is what Trudeau's actually doing to the country as a whole. If you step out of your own little box and your own little identity and look at everybody else, you'll see you have more in common than not. And this is why the elites divide and conquer all the time. This is a tactic now being used again by Israel. I'm not saying that I believe they knew about the attack and let it happen. But it's not like it hasn't happened before. Just research, gosh, Pearl Harbor for one. That's a good example. It's happened before. These leaders really don't care about us. It's not, you know, and they don't care really how many people die, because, I mean, the World Economic Forum, one of their big mandates is to reduce the world's population, of course, because of climate change and global, you know, we've got to respect the earth and go green and you know, so they want to reduce the population of the earth by like 2/3. Well, how are you going to do that? Back in the 70s, Henry Kissinger, do you remember him? United States. Henry Kissinger once said, it used to be easier to control 1 million people than kill 1 million people. But now, and this is back in 1973, so now it's easier to kill 1 million people. Now, why the hell would a world leader be thinking in that terms? Why would you even be musing about what's the best way to get rid of 1 million people? And why would you want to do that? Well, that's part of the agenda. The agenda goes back hundreds of years. They're playing the long game. And every little step, every little increment takes that much more power out of our hands and into theirs. And that's just the way it's going. This conflict is no different. I'm very curious as to what the king might say about all of this, because, of course, he's got a vested interest. The royal family claims that they can track their lineage back to the biblical King David. And this is the divine right to rule premise that the royal family operate under. That is why they're royal and you're not. So they believe in this stuff. Charles is the head of the Church of England, defender of the faith. The Church of England is a Bible-based religion. They believe in Jesus Christ as their Savior, so they believe what God says. And if you're a true believer and a true defender, not only should he come out and stand with Israel, but he should really make it clear where he stands. You know, is he going to come out and absolutely stand with Israel, or is there going to be, but I'd also like to extend my thoughts about the innocent, you know, how's he going to do it? How's he going to appease both sides? Because, of course, that is the woke thing to do. Even though all these countries, Canada, Britain, France, I mean, all over the place, are saying they stand with Israel, they are still allowing huge protest by Arabs in all their major countries. We've had protests in Toronto here, tons of Palestinian flags, thousands of people on the streets, Jews on the other side, you know, silently praying for the people of Israel, and the Palestinians' wild, raucous, flag-waving parade of victory. If these Western countries really stood with Israel, would they allow that kind of madness to continue to go on in their streets? But here's the thing, every other leader operates the same way. If Trudeau can have conflict in his own country between two rivaling factions, they're not going to come together and see he's the actual enemy, because they are too stuck on their own. And this is how they do it. And I think this is a precursor to something that may get much larger. God hope not. But we'll have to wait and see. And we'll have to see if King Charles comes out and says anything about this. Well, everybody, have a good day. Watch the news. Research what's really going on. And we'll talk to you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Especially now, I'd love to know what you think about all this. Bye for now.